Welcome back to the Romru podcast. We have our first guest of the podcast. Welcome, Lucy.
Lucy Bear, our dog. Bienvenue, Lucy. And I say that in French because everybody, we made it. We are in France. And everyone made it. Lucy made it. Scotland made it. We both made it. And all 8 of our checked bags made it.
Yes.
Imagine that.
Crazy. So let's set the stage right now. We are actually sitting in our daughter's room, surrounded by our bags. We have not fully unpacked because we're just in our temporary short-term Airbnb. There's chaos everywhere.
And it's kind of warm in here because there's only one AC unit. Welcome to Europe.
So, yeah, but we wanted to talk about kind of, the move, right? Packing for the move.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we chatted, it was all about the preparation, the nerves, the emotions, all of them. There were so many. But now we're doing it. We're here. What's going on? Like, we are in France. We have been in France for 2 weeks officially. We are still in our temporary place. And let's chat about it.
Yes. So we're able to do this right now in Scotland's bedroom because Collette did a great job of actually finding a nanny before we got here.
Hooray.
So we have the most amazing nanny. She was actually a neonatal nurse who spent some time when she was a child in Belgium. And now she's here with her husband. She's fantastic, speaks French. So Scotland is learning French through her. She probably knows more than we do already. And so that's making it a little bit easier on the two of us.
Yeah, and I do want to point out that I found her on an expat Facebook group, which has been a great resource for us in general for all things France and Nice. So yeah, I found her on an expat group, and she's been wonderful.
So let's get into, everyone asks us, how did we pack? I think, when did you first start packing?
In my brain or physically?
Well, physically.
I would say physically it was 2 to 3 weeks out from the trip because I'm more of a do a little bit every day kind of gal instead of one lump sum. It's how I used to write my papers in college too. Just a tiny bit every day leading up to it.
And I'm more of the last second pack. But even with this one, I didn't wait till last second. I probably physically started a week out.
There was just so much to do. I think you might have even started before that because you were giving away clothes.
That's true.
We were making that giant pile in our room. I mean, how big was that pile to give away?
One load filled up our entire SUV.
Yes, that's true. And we made more than one trip.
We made
Goodwill.
So probably, I'd say collectively like 10 large trash bags full of clothes donated because it was just, there's so many things when we were going through this process. It was such a tough process because one, you're trying to decide, what am I going to bring to France? What are we going to do while we're here? And there's so many things to do. So many climates. We could, go to the Alps. We could be on the beach. And so we're looking at every single item. Do we like it? Do we not? And so you're filtering what to pack. And then also you're thinking, do I really need this item if I'm not going to bring it with me? And that was just such a tough, how did you deal with that?
I think I adopted that Marie Kondo mindset of if it doesn't make you happy, 1, give it away. 2, if you're not going to wear it in the next year and you don't have a super emotional connection to it, give it away. And just try to be really logical about it. I mean, there were some things, of course, I saved because of sentimental value, but for the most part, I gave away a large chunk of my wardrobe and it felt really good. It felt really good.
Yeah, so I got rid of so many things, but there was still a lot of stuff that we saved. So
yes.
we didn't sell our house. We rented it out. And fortunately, we have a lot of little nooks and crannies in our basement. So we were able to actually store a good majority of all the sentimental things that we weren't going to bring with us in our basement.
Yes. So we had, great storage room. And then there were a few things that had more value to them, and we were able to store that with family members. So that was really helpful. We didn't have to buy a storage unit or anything like that or rent a storage unit. And now here we are. But also, we rented our house out furnished. And I feel like we should talk about that because it's a big, I think that would be a big hurdle for most people. And it was a big hurdle for us in the beginning when we first rented our house out in Los Angeles many years ago, almost a decade ago. But now that we've been around the block and rented our house out furnished multiple times. I mean, what was your thinking of renting it out furnished versus unfurnished?
Well, this time it was easy because we've done it before. But the very first time, I can remember being in LA and just looking at all of the things. And at the time, those things seemed so important to us. You know, our couch that we loved and our TV and all these things that you have an emotional attachment to them. And we thought of all these horrible scenarios that would happen. You know, you think you're going to have a tenant come in and just destroy stuff or just ruin it. And your life's going to be ruined because of it, because you have the emotional attachment. But the second we got out the door back in 2015, we forgot all about it. And all those things don't even really matter to us anymore. So this time, it was the same. It was a lot easier to rent it furnished. Yes, there's things that we miss, but the idea of our couch, the TV, the kitchen table, all those things that are wonderful and we do miss, they're all replaceable.
I think also we've had to deal with tenants before that have kind of damaged some things in the past. And there's a solution. You know, you hire a deep cleaner, you buy something new, you have to replace it, unfortunately, but that's what a security deposit's for. And, you know, it is replaceable. These things are replaceable. They're cleanable. There's other options. And it's tough, but it's feasible.
It is feasible.
And while all of our things are still in the house, we didn't want to sell the house. We wanted to keep it. We wanted to rent it out, keep it as an asset, and keep building equity in it. I mean, did you think about selling it all?
No. Well, yeah. No. Because this whole journey is just a year-long journey, and it may be longer, who knows? But it was the idea of we can rent it out and then move back in. And that was kind of the whole plan, because it gave us like a little bit of a security to know if we, for some reason, hate it here, we can go back and reset to our normal life. And that was, in a way, you know, kind of the fear setting process was, okay, what's the biggest fear? We absolutely hate it, and we just want to go back to where we were. And one of the easiest ways is to have our house back at home. And now, yes, we do have a year-long lease, but, you know, we could go back and rent a temporary home and then move back into our home at that point. So, yeah, to sell it, no. But, and we also know we could, if we come here and we love it, in the future, in a few years, we can still sell the house.
Yeah, or re-rent it if we need to. But it's a great asset to have. And now it's kicking off monthly income for us, which is super helpful.
Yes, very, very helpful.
We just wanted to cover our mortgage, but hey, we're making a little money on it too. So that's a bonus.
Yeah, we got very lucky. And that's happened twice. One of the big fears we had both times was, can we rent our house out? When I say both times we took big trips and left our house. Was, could we rent our house out and cover the mortgage? And often you'll be surprised what the market value is of your home. And so both times actually the first time we didn't use an agent, but this time we used an agent to find people, and it was very beneficial for us.
Yeah, and we rented it. I think the first person that walked into the house ended up renting it. So it was wonderful. Actually, it was a really seamless process. Actually,
one thing I would say, if you're going to do this, don't be afraid to price test the rent. Because I can remember the first time we rented our house out, that we thought the value was significantly less than what we ended up getting. And so we actually put it up on the market, and you put it up on like Airbnb, and then you had the idea to put it up on Craigslist for like $500 more a month. And there was a lot of interest. So we realized, okay, we can actually get some positive cash flow.
Yeah, it was a Craigslist rental, baby.
So if you have the time, post it for what might seem like a crazy number to you, or, you know, or lean on a real estate agent to understand the market. That's what we did for this house, this most recent one, because there were other comparable houses that were renting on the market. So we had a good idea of what the value would be.
Yeah. So rented out the house and we started the packing process. Luckily, we didn't have to store any furniture, but we did have to pack everything. Let's talk about what we brought and what we left, because yeah, and we already talked about we gave away a ton of things, but it was much more challenging than I expected, because we're typically a carry-on only family. So all of a sudden we're saying, well, let's pack for a year. And in the past, I think even if I went for a year, I only packed a carry-on. But it's different with a kid. It's so much different.
It's so different because, and actually one of the hardest things was the emotional attachment you had to all the items. I mean, there were so many times where I was emotionally gutted looking at a toy, looking at a book that she no longer played with, no longer read. And we weren't going to bring it. And she was already done with it. But now you have to actually say goodbye to that item and that time of life. And that was really hard. And that's what, during the whole packing process, exhausted me, because so many times I would see something and get caught up in remembering something and realize, oh, we don't need to bring it, but I'm so sad to actually store it.
It actually sounds like grief to me.
It was very much grief. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a time of life. That's when you said the time of life thing. I'm like, that's it. It was a chapter closing and fully closing, because we're not going back to that time.
I know.
She's growing.
I had a breakdown.
Very vulnerable.
Actually,
of
in front of friends. Yeah. They ask, how's it going? How's the packing going? What do you see? And it still nearly brings me to tears, is I took her to the park about a week before we were leaving. And it was just the two of us in the afternoon. And I was pushing her on the swings. And I realized this may be the last time we have these swings together, because she's gonna do swings. She's gonna play at the park. But these swings, the park that she started going to, the little baby bucket swings we've spent so much time on and had so much fun, and we're not going to be there, because when we go back, she'll be on the big kid swings. And so it was very, very tough when I realized that. And even now I'm like sad thinking about it, but I have pictures of the moment.
I do want to say Scott's tearing up. It's beautiful right now. So. It's an emotional time. One door opens and another door closes. And it's been really challenging in a new way for us, because we haven't had these emotional ties to things until we had a child. And the big thing is especially the house, the memories. We brought her home from the hospital there. I mean, all of her firsts were there. And I know we'll have more wherever we are. And home is wherever we are, but it's still a tough transition.
So I would say if you want to do a big trip, journey, whatever, if you can do it before kids, do it. You can also do it with kids. It will just be different. It will be slower. It will be a little bit harder, but it will also be more memorable, really. I mean, life with a kid is much more intense. Everything's intense. Everything's a little bit tougher, but the highs are so much higher. And sometimes the lows are a little bit lower, but it's definitely a lot more fun.
Yeah, there's more responsibility though in the packing, right? Because I want to make sure that she's going to be okay, that she has everything, and that we're packing everything that we need to support the family as well. And of course, you can buy things in France. There are children in France. There are places to access things for children in France. However, you have your creature comforts. And when you're in a new foreign place, you want to have access to those creature comforts. So I think we packed way more than expected. I don't know about you. I mean, for me, I packed way more than I expected to.
I think I was more realist. I knew how much stuff we needed to bring, because it's so many climates, having a kid, having a dog. It's just a lot of stuff. The hardest part, outside of the emotional attachment with our daughter's items and saying goodbye, it's easy for us to say goodbye to things. It's easier. There were T-shirts that we've had for a decade, and you're like, I'm not really wearing this shirt. I'm just kind of holding it in my closet as a memory. To kind of donate that was tough, but not as tough as saying goodbye to a toy set that we're not going to bring. And also, she's fine. She's having a blast, but we would look at toys and think, is she going to have enough? And you have that everywhere you go. And she's having a blast. We're still in our temporary house, as we said, so we haven't really got too many toys. The plan was that we would get some toys while we're here, but we've gotten a few little ones, and she still has fun.
Yeah, and ultimately, kids don't really need that much. I think she's been so happy here because she's been spending so much time with us. I mean, we're super hands-on. We're out and about getting baguettes and macaroons almost every day. She's thriving. She loves it here. Let's think about it.
Her treat count is up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So those are some of the hardest parts. But yeah, you ask, did I think we would bring so much? Yes. And we ended up bringing a total of, it was eight 70-pound bags. Is that right?
Yeah. So we had a weight limit on our airline. And that's why we say 70 pounds, because the weight limit on La Compagnie, which is the all business class airline that we flew from Newark to Nice, They allow dogs in the cabin, which is why we really chose them. They have a weight limit of 70 pounds, and we could each pack 2 bags. And then you could pay extra if you wanted to bring more than 2 bags. And so we did end up, we had the 6 bags allotted, and then we paid for 2 more bags.
Which cost us $200 each, so $400 extra baggage cost.
Yeah, so I really didn't want to pack more than that because I was starting to get it very expensive.
But I mean, it was exactly 70 pounds for all 8 of those bags. I spent days. It wasn't, what's interesting is we have the duffels are right next to us and we'll somehow share the link. I ordered several different duffels on Amazon, and it's kind of hard to figure out how tough these duffels are because you don't want something to fall apart. But I actually got several and then went outside the garage and put like 90 pounds and just kind of lugged it around and picked it up, grabbed it by all the different handles to make sure that it was tough and rugged enough. But we found the right one. I like them. They were like $35 a piece.
Love that.
And filled them up. So it wasn't a problem of space. It was a problem of weight. And then we had a little scale, a little hand scale, and I would move things around and we got everything to fit just barely.
So we were manually weighing everything. Scott was doing upright rows to weigh these bags, and I was there to see the number. I don't know how many upright rows you did, but you did not need to work out that week.
That was a lot of work.
And one thing that really helped us, and you had this idea, was to use those vacuum seal bags. I think it helped save a lot of space, and that's probably one reason why we didn't have a problem with actual space.
I'm on the fence with the vacuum bags. We bought the Amazon Basic vacuum bags and used our vacuum to just suck it all down. It's really good for stuff you're not going to use for a while. So like the winter stuff, but some of those came undone. I think it works. It helps somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking with all of our winter coats and Lucy's bed and some bigger, just fluffy items, I think it really helped shrink it down.
Yeah. So that was helpful. Was there anything you left that you're kind of like, or you've gotten here and you've been like, I wish I had this?
My family. No, but I do miss people.
Yeah.
I think I brought plenty. I mean, I brought a lot of clothes that I would think I would vacation in Europe with, that maybe when you're living here, you don't dress up every day. So maybe I brought too many of, going out clothes, so to speak. But we'll see. I haven't even unpacked fully yet because we're in our temporary place. Yeah,
I was shocked. I pulled out the tripod today and looked in the bag and I'm like, oh, I do have a lot of things to unpack. Some of the things I like, the little like nuanced stuff, we actually set up. It's called Aura. Is that the photo album?
Yes, Aura.
So we have the Aura, like one of those live photo displays that we set up in our family room that kind of a little touch of home. We actually set up an Alexa because our daughter loves music.
And it's so nice to have her boss someone else around other than us. She tells Alexa what to do instead of us.
So those were little things.
By the way, I think Aura, we did have a code. I'm not sure if it's still valid. I'm going to make sure it is, but the code is Romaru and you get a discount, guys.
Either way, that's
AURA.
Yeah, I love it. I've always seen those things and I thought we should probably get one. This one I love. It's so simple to just upload your photos.
Everything's digital. It's great.
No, this is not sponsored by Aura. We just really like it.
Yeah, we just really like it.
I brought kitchen knives. That's a little weird thing that I brought.
That is a funky thing. And I didn't even know you did it. And all of a sudden you pull out our really nice knife. And I was like, oh, great. Because Airbnb knives were just not cutting it. You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
Dad joke.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything we left. We brought a lot of books for Scotland.
Yes,
I like that.
That was a big weight thing. I mean, we packed at least 25 books, some French books, some English books, all Dr. Seuss, actually, almost all.
We had a full suitcase of gear, just camera equipment, plus my full travel backpack. So a 70 pound, and then we actually left a lot of stuff.
Plus all of our rock climbing gear.
Some of it. I didn't bring all of it. Some of it. Yeah, I left the rope and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I didn't bring my snowboard.
No, you did not bring the snowboard.
It's in a spot where it could be shipped if I need to.
Noted.
Yeah. And one of the things during the research was I found out that basically to ship anything to Europe is about the same price as it is to just throw it on an airplane.
And I think that cost again was $200.
It's roughly $200 across the market. There might be something a little bit cheaper, but mainly it's just there were services, maybe a few bucks here and there where you could save a little money, but unless you're going to ship like a big box and literally ship it like 6 weeks on a boat, I don't think there's really a cheap way to get bags from the US to Europe.
Yeah. I mean, if you're moving furniture, which we did not, we only brought things like clothing and toiletries and rock climbing gear, but no furniture.
Well, there's the Alps, so we might go rock climbing.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm not. I just think it's cute and funny. The things we bring. And you brought ski gear, but you didn't bring a snowboard.
Didn't bring a snowboard.
You brought, your pants and all that.
Yeah.
The pants.
So was it harder or easier than you thought it would be?
Harder, way harder. It took way longer. And I think you touched on this before, but the mental tax that I had to pay every single day was really tough because there were so many decisions that by noon I had decision fatigue. And then you still have to be a parent and you still have to work and you still have all of these responsibilities and you still want to see all these people before you leave for a long time. So the stress of those weeks leading up to us leaving, especially because we were packing and all of that and having all of these. That was
the 12 o'clock cannon that goes off if you heard that every day.
I just had to laugh at that. Boom, every day. Yeah, it was just a lot on the brain and the body and I was exhausted. But what do you think? Was it easier or tougher?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It was exhausting. It was every day for at least a week, like nonstop, wake up, just moving, packing, making decisions, organizing, cleaning, putting things away. The list just never ended. And it was just constant stress. Like, because you're playing out all these scenarios in your mind. What's going to happen if I don't bring this? Do I bring this? And then you're dealing with the weight and you're trying to put things in there. And the two of us are basically fighting over like, I was going to put that there. And why'd you put things in at one point,
that was the fight of the week for sure.
That was the fight of the week. Collette put a few items in a bag that I'd weighed up perfectly to 70 pounds and I didn't tell her. And I was like, what? You can't put things in that bag.
How could you?
It was just,
I trusted you.
Yes. It was just, she's like, but that bag, I moved things around. So it was very, very tough. Just the logistics, the organized, and we're here, we're fine. We're going to figure things out. There's going to be stuff that we're missing, but there's probably also going to be a lot of things that we brought too much of.
I do want to point out that it was minutes before we were leaving for the airport. And I went into the closet just to do like a once over. And Scott had left like a huge chunk of clothing in our closet. And I'm like, are you storing these? Or are you bringing these? And you're like, oh no, I'm bringing all of those. Those are all my pants. So we had to redistribute weight in the last
shoved them. My carry-on was so full. I actually thought it was going to break. I was worried it was going to break, but it made it.
Thank you to me.
Yeah.
It's funny when you say all this, our own advice just echoes in my head of like, it's just things, but it's still your things that you have ties to.
And it adds up over time if you just keep buying things. So I kept thinking, I need to buy this, need to buy that. I'm like, that's $50 here, $100 there. So it's like, I need to bring it.
Yeah. We got to save for college. We got to be
and
smart
we got to
about
feed
this.
Lucy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Lucy's such a huge dog. She eats so much.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything odd that we brought. I mean, we brought all of our clothes, brought all of our camera gear, all of our electronics. We did not bring any workout gear. Sad.
Well, we brought clothing, but no weights.
No weights, nothing
Actually,
like that.
That's not true. Ta-da. I brought 2 pieces of workout equipment. One is that Courageous ball. It's inflatable.
Oh.
It's this big. It's not the huge physio ball. It's one you can like put in between your knees and do push-ups.
That's for you. You can do that.
Yeah. It's just good for rehab stuff. And then somewhere in one of these bags, but I brought the 3-pound.
I thought that went missing. And I was like, that's 3 pounds.
You tiny 3-pound ball, but it's really great for core exercises. And I thought, okay, this isn't going to take up that much weight, but it's really good for core activation. It's something. But I think when we get to our new place, we'll probably buy a little bit of gear.
Yes. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a kettlebell or something.
I think that'd be nice.
Well, there goes our guest. Our guest is leaving the office.
Lucy's had enough.
She's ready to leave.
Au revoir, Lucy.
So I think if there's anything silly or like stuff that we thought we would need, we didn't need, or I mean, we talked about the Aura, we talked about our Alexa. I brought Sonos speakers to set up.
You did. I've seen those.
They're in storage right now. Brought all our hard drives.
I don't think we brought anything that crazy. I really don't.
Right now, so my strategy was pack a carry-on bag for this trip and not unload anything from the big bags.
Oh, that was so smart. Yeah. I didn't have that much foresight.
So but I can't say I didn't open anything, but basically so I only have, that's why I'm so limited on some of the clothes. It's just, I just wanted to unload the carry-on, all the big bags, leave those full. And then when we get there, all those extra clothes, I'll open those up.
Well, basically I unloaded way more than we thought because we have this temporary place for 6 weeks. However, we're only here for 3 because we found a long-term apartment. Whoop, whoop, whoop. More on that later. But yeah, I unpacked for 6 weeks, but we're not staying very long. So there'll just be more to pack next week when we move.
Yes.
Hooray. Packing.
So looking back, anything you would tell people if they're going to do this?
I would say test pack. Really visualize what your life is going to look like and honestly visualize what your life would look like without certain things. I mean, did they bring you happiness? Because there are some clothes that just make you happy. They're your go-tos, or good memories, and definitely bring those. So they're definitely your heck yes pile. And then I had a maybe pile. And then eventually there was a no pile. And things migrate from that maybe pile to the no pile based on what you have room for. And I would say bring the minimum, because it just takes up so much mental space to bring extra stuff. Now, again, we're team carry-on, so it's like really bring the minimum. You don't need much. But again, you don't need much when you get there. You end up wearing the same stuff over and over again, just like you do at home. But if it's in a different country, maybe the style is a bit different. So, and you're going to want to get a few new things when you get there. So yeah, I think my advice would be test pack and try to stick to the minimum. What about you? I
would say something I heard about how the brain, like the reason why there's 7 numbers in a telephone number is like our brain can usually hold like 7 to 9 numbers. So like when you think about choosing items, you can hold that amount in your brain. And so when it comes to decision making, you can't organize everything at once. You can't think about what sweaters, what t-shirts, what underwear, what socks, what coats, what pants, like all at the same time. You kind of need to categorize. So what I would do is like I'd lay out all of my shirts that I was even considering bringing, and then just go through and create piles and be like, this is the yes pile, this is a no pile, this is a maybe pile. And so it's very quickly you can red light, yellow light, green light. And then the maybes are the ones where you have to think about. And you go through the maybe, because then you'll see the pile of all the yeses. And sometimes you realize, wow, I've got plenty. All those maybes can just be donated or stored. Or there's a few maybes where you're like, let me think about that. And that's where you can put the effort in. And you do that with everything. And it's a much easier strategy to decide on what you're taking. Is just kind of pick a category, red light, yellow light, green light, sort it out, and then go back to the yellows and decide if you want to bring that. And then you just move on.
The traffic lights of packing. I love this metaphor. We've gone through a lot of emotions and the details as well of packing. And there's so much between the flight and the arrival and the first couple weeks in France, the ups and downs, the in-betweens that
we'll talk about that next week.
We could talk about that next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
A bientôt. That means see you later.
Au revoir. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're learning from and or enjoying this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. These are great free ways to support this podcast. Also, please subscribe to this podcast on both Spotify and Apple. On both of those platforms, you can leave us up to a 5-star review, which would help us out greatly. Please also check out the sponsors mentioned in today's episode. That's the best way to support this show. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please put those in the comment sections in YouTube. And yes, we do read all the comments.